I think about the technological future, I can't help but think that the machinery of life that we're really starting to understand now is the basis for the next technological age. Like, you look at the work of somebody like Michael Levin, and it's terrifying on one hand because it's opening the door to the manipulation of body plans and of even cells into these creatures that appear like they have a mind of their own. Like, he seems like he's creating life from in like almost panspermically, right? You have these frog skin cells that you can like.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't see it as a very threatening form of life, but who knows where it can go. But I think what Mike Levin is doing, which is extremely valuable, is breaking down the kind of deep conservatism among biologists who will see development as purely a genetic program. And if you start talking about electrical fields and so on, we'll back away. And you have to have exceptional quality work to get people's attention and make them take it seriously. And he's doing that work. And you know, it's really beautiful. It doesn't surprise me very much. It's very surprising in some sense, but in another sense, I've been thinking about mitochondrial electrical fields and electromagnetic fields and so on, and what work can they do. And he's been thinking about the plasma membrane of cells and the bioelectric code and so on, which is not something I know much about or have thought much about. But the idea that you can organize things with electrical fields is very appealing. Clearly, it's true. It's almost certainly true for us as well in almost any organism. I think he's bang on looking for a bioelectric code. And it's just a whole open frontier of biology that almost nobody has gone anywhere near it. And, you know, it's going to be, I was going to say, as important as genes. Maybe not, because without the genes, you don't have anything else. You don't have the structure or anything. But still, it's a hugely important area of biology that is you know, I ask lots of evolutionary biologists or Evo-Devo people who work on development and so on. Are you familiar with this work on bioelectric fields? Hardly any of them are. It just doesn't kind of cut through to mainstream biology because it's so conservative.
And that's kind of that's the feeling I got by going through biology to the highest levels of it, right? You go through the PhD and you realize that it is fundamentally a very conservative field that still feels informed by the way that experiments were being done in the 1950s. And we haven't really gotten into the bioelectricity stuff, but there's a lot of really odd research that has percolated through the field over the course of the last 30, 40 years that has been outright dismissed as being charlatanry or nonsense or whatever else you want to call it, that it really seems like what Mike Levin is doing in the idea of bioelectrical codes in life is
it would also be dismissed as mumbo jumbo, except that his work is so good.
And that's the crazy thing. You make something that works and people cannot help but be like, well,
I mean, you believe the evidence of your eyes. That's exactly what he shows you. He gives you the evidence for your eyes, and that's why he is taken as seriously as he is, and that's why, you know, he's made me sit up and think seriously about, well, how are the mitochondrial fields going to integrate with plasma membrane and development and all these other things and consciousness. So they're really big, interesting questions. But I think he's cut through to scientists and he's cut through to the general public, but he's not cut through, to my mind, yet to the molecular biologists.
Interesting.
Why do you think that how is it that he cut through to you? Because you're very you're molecular in spirit, but is it because you're focused on this larger question?
I've always been interested in bioenergetics and the membrane potential and the questions of what kind of fields will a membrane potential I mean, obviously a strong electrostatic field, but what we've discovered over the last 10 years, not me, but people in the field, is that the structure of Christie is, rather than being kind of wavy line that they're often drawn as, they're actually very tightly focused. And at the end, you have dimers of the ATP synthase, and you have a kind of a current of protons now, so an oscillating charge in effect, which will generate electromagnetic fields, which is difficult to measure, and we have parallel crystal with parallel fields, which should interfere with each other and ought to strengthen each other so long as they're oscillating in phase, and so on. So this is, again, a whole area of biology that I'm increasingly interested in. Is not linked directly with Mike Levin's stuff, but you can see where the connections lie.
Yeah, you can see the horizon there. You can see how the next century could just be a whole revolution in the way that we think about biological signaling and communication and integrity, and it's so fascinating.
I mean, it makes me a little bit nervous because when we start talking about the importance of bioelectricity, I look around at all of the devices that we're surrounded by constantly and all of the electromagnetic radiation that we're putting out into the world. And, you think about sentinel species like newts or toads or something that live in polluted waters, and they're the first ones to get sick. And I wonder if there isn't a similar thing that might be happening to very, very sensitive species due to overly abundant electromagnetic radiation that we've kind of decided is relatively safe. But again, if we're not looking for it in these ways, and this is a new discipline and it's kind of the dark matter of our understanding, what do we have to know in order to be able to even figure it out?
Well, I mean, there's a body of work going back over, again, decades that externally imposed electromagnetic fields and so on can influence physiology, but not random wavelengths and so on. A lot depends on exactly how strong is the field, exactly where is it, exactly what's the, and so on. Which is not very surprising, because if we're dealing with the electrical fields that cells may be dealing with, we're in quite a constrained range, and with a very detailed structure of the cell, and it will fall away very quickly from the membranes themselves. So you'll have. I mean, I often say that the strength of the field with the mitochondria, if you were to the strength of the field strength of the electrical field is about 30 million volts per meter. 200 millivolts is across a 5 nanometer membrane, so 5 millionths of a millimeter membrane, is 30 million volts per meter, which is like a bolt of lightning. So it's an extremely intense field, but over a very short distance. And to generate fields that operate over longer distances, we seem to be needing to move to electromagnetic fields rather than electrostatic fields. And that means structures, which should be predictable structures that we should be able to see and we should be able to measure them, but nobody's really trying.